how great of an offensive coordinator he was on the Tennessee Titans. And if you don't believe me, ask A.J. Brown, ask Derrick Henry, ask them guys. They'll tell you. They'll tell you what offense exploded their roots. They'll tell you the offense that gave them the pop. They'll tell you the offense that allowed people to officially get put on to them. And now they're exploding those talents that they were able to expose on other teams. Derrick Henry on the Ravens, A.J. Brown on the Eagles. You don't believe me? Ask them. Ask them. They know who play calling is what put everybody on to them. Now, obviously, things didn't work out in Tennessee as well as they thought. But when you have a coordinator who could have a guy who's considered a backup back then, at best a backup, as an MVP candidate, that should tell you the type of pop we're going to get with either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson headed into this season or the remainder of this season. On to the defense. TJ Watt.
Okay. You know what it is. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. You know what it is.
Najee Harris to the end zone. Touchdown. Fires. Intercepted. Picked off and a pick six. Minka Fitzpatrick is an absolute ball hawk. Picked off Polamalu. Polamalu going right. The field is open. Aaron Smith shields. Flacco. Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 40. Roethlisberger has time. Throws to the back of the end zone, and it is on for a touchdown by Holmes.
Push to start.
And welcome to BlitzHerz with your great host, May Shayla. Obviously, this is the first ever episode I'm hosting where I do not have a special guest on here, but the show must continue. So we're just going to kick off this episode with talking about week one. It was just, let's just say, a game that's been won for the ages. It's pretty much, if you're a realist like I am, is practically what you expected with new offensive coordinator, new quarterbacks, etc. It's basically a whole new ball game. Everything new but our defense and our kicker, who practically won us the game. So week one in Mercedes-Benz versus the Atlanta Falcons, who was a favorite to make the playoffs this year, probably still is, and obviously the favorites to still win the NFC South division. The Steelers went on to beat them 18-10 in the most, I would say, the weirdest way, but a win is a win. We're here, we're happy, so let's just keep kicking it off. Justin Fields obviously was the starting quarterback, even though Russell Wilson was announced originally, but plans changed. Wilson had a calf injury. Fields was healthy, ready to go. He got the heads up at the very last minute that he was going to be the starting quarterback, but he did look more prepared than anything. He obviously didn't play his best game, passing for, he completed 17 out of 23 of his passes. 156 yards, 6.8 yards, per pass attempt. And his QBR rating was a 44.6. But he did run for a couple of good yards. He did save a lot of plays using his mobility, which I think that a lot of people, did not give him enough credit for. Because obviously being a quarterback in this league, especially in this era, which is a pass-happy era, you would say that, you would want better numbers. But people got to remember, new system, new offensive system, new coordinator, new everything. So the rough patches, let's just call it like it is, it was more than bound to come. And I'm glad that they got it off now than, it being week 2 or week 3 or 4, etc., and so on, where the rough patches are still there. But if I say that week 1 gave me any type of confidence, let's just say we're in a better predicament for sure now than we were heading into last season, which I was huge on. But Matt Canada stayed, which he shouldn't. New offensive coordinator Arthur Smith came in after being hired this past February, March, and took over. And the difference within the play calling has shown. It's shown a lot. And you are a Steelers fan, you have to be happy for Justin Fields, because all the slander he was getting basically got booted out of Chicago and traded away for the likes of Caleb Williams, who didn't really look that good. And you now have an opportunity to redeem yourself with a head coach in the likes of Mike Tomlin, who's known to make something out of nothing. So when you have that, and you're in a new offensive, system with Arthur Smith, who was, people forget, a great offensive coordinator. I mean, great offensive coordinator in Tennessee. He had Ryan Tannehill, who's considered a backup by many, as an MVP candidate, and you could say that was the beginning to the career of A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry. So I'm still extremely excited to see what he has for, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, who just got a contract extension. I think it was $48 million for 4 years. So he's here for a good 4 years. He will be here with whomever the starting quarterback is, whether it's Wilson, whether it's Fields, or whether it's someone else. But if we're basing it off of what we saw, I'll just say this. The Steelers are in great hands. Believe it or not, they're in great hands. And Justin Fields showing us that this is the preview of what we would have gotten in Chicago if they would have done what Omar Khan has done for their offense. What Omar Khan has done has been a sensational job. And we cannot pretend like he did not knock, back-to-back drives out the park. He covered everything that was needed back-to-back years. Starting with the offensive line, he has gotten nothing less than juggernauts who are ready to start now. And when you have guys like Najee Harris, when you have guys like, Jalen Warren, you have guys like Pat Freiermuth, you have men like that who is ready to play now, ready to ball now, and then you got a defense that's in a great predicament to win now, or who's shown you they're ready to win now. You have to hire an offensive coordinator that is bound to use every single strength of his offense to their best abilities. And obviously, we all know this. The offense is going to go through the run game. So the only thing the quarterback had to do was make the throws that was needed, which Justin Fields definitely did. Game manage, which he did. Make plays whenever the throws or whoever ain't there, because this is an era of mobile quarterbacks. And last week in Atlanta shown just that. When your quarterback can't move, when your quarterback can't put the ball where it needs to be, don't make the throws that are necessary, and can't game manage because he constantly turns the ball over, this is what you get. You get chaos, which what the Falcons offense got. Let's see, Kirk Cousins had 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, forced fumble for a loss. And, well, he actually had a worse game performance than Justin Fields. And everybody want to go so hard on Justin Fields, but guess what? He's in a new system. Even though you could say Kirk Cousins was, but when you get paid as much money as he did, and you go out there and perform like you did, you can't get no pass for that. And let me read to you Kirk Cousins' stats. 17 for 23. 17, attempts. 23 attempts. 17 completions. let's just say 156 passing yards. He had a worse QBR rating than Justin Fields. He actually had a below a 30, if I'm not mistaken, below a 30 QBR rating. And when you have that as a quarterback who's getting paid $100 million guaranteed for the next 4 years, you would expect better numbers. So actually, no, I'm going to read to you his numbers as it is right here. And let's just say they're not the best numbers. They're not even close as, I'm trying to be nice here, but Lordy. His QBR rating is actually a 32. He had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 155 yards, with a quarterback rating, of once again 32, with 6 yards average per pass attempt. And his rating, QBR rating we just mentioned, so his rating was a 59. Passer rating was 59. When you look at veterans like that, who gets paid like Kirk Cousins did, you cannot come out your mouth and slander Justin Fields. You cannot. Because I'd rather my guy, not score a touchdown than to go in and win the game, make the throws that I need, and still put my team in a predicament, or our team in a predicament, to win the game, than to consistently turn the ball over 3 times. 2 interceptions, 1 fumble for a loss. Have lower than a 35 QBR rating, 32 to be more exact. Get paid $100 million guaranteed for 4 years. And display the way he did. And all this celebrating and all this talking that Falcon fans was doing, yeah. Next topic. So that's just my cap on that. When it comes to the quarterbacks, when it comes to everybody wanting to slander Justin Fields, let's pipe it down. I understand everyone wanted to see Russell Wilson. So did I. I still want to see him. I still want to see him play. But when you're not healthy, it becomes a problem, and we're going to get into more of that on the show. It's more problematic. It's problematic because you have to be available for your team. Wilson's not. He's not fully healthy. Fields is, and that's why the quarterback controversy is what it is. Moving on, more on to the game. The Steelers started to slowly but surely get back to the roots, run the ball, stop the run, as they did hold the Falcons to less than 70 yards of rushing offense, of rushing yards. So when you hold someone who has a running back in the likes of Bijan Robinson, that's a great job by the defense. Steelers, slowly but surely, like I said, getting back to the running game, where Najee Harris, 70 yards, Jaylen Warren, 7 rushing yards. Obviously, they both averaged 3.5 yards per attempt, per carry. Pretty great, pretty solid. And they averaged 77 yards in the run game. Now, everyone want to sit here and say, oh, he should have averaged more, he should average more. People don't get this. A lot of plays were called back. A lot of bullshit flags on both sides of the ball. It was a hard game for the Steelers to win because it was the Steelers versus the Falcons and the referees for that game. And if you know, you know. Speaking of which, wide receiver George Pickens screwed out of not one, but if I'm not mistaken, 2 major plays. The one that highlighted the most, though, is the 31-yard reception that he had over A.J. Terrell, which was called back because of an offensive pass interference. I don't understand, if you are an NFL referee, how can you dare call that an offensive pass interference when it was Terrell all over him? He got loose and beat him like he practically did the whole entire game. Those are one of the things you really got to laugh off because your team won the game. But at the same time, things like that, you think those would have been touchdowns. Steelers would have dominated, and we should have had more yards accounted for than we did. That's what I think about the offense as. There was one called on flyer move, which only led to him getting 27 yards, 6.8 yards per reception on 4 receptions and 4 targets. George Pickens finished the game with 85 receiving yards, 14.2 yards per reception on 6 catches out of 7 attempts. 7 targets, correct me. So when I think about that, and I think about, the way the game went and how it was going, you got to take that into consideration. This was an offense who was screwed out of a big game because of bullshit calls by the referees down there. Every freaking thing this team has done is a penalty, and it wasn't just them. It was the defense too, which we're going to get started on the show. But overall, the Steelers did what they had to do on offense. They did enough to win the game. And even though, put enough points, yes. Touchdowns, yes. Because when you play teams like the Bengals, you play teams like the Chiefs, you play teams like the Ravens, who you're always going to play tough against. You play teams like the Eagles. You play teams like the Cowboys, which is coming up sooner rather than later. Then you got your home opener against the Chargers. You have to put up points. December football is going to be determined by the teams that can average points. So, yes, I agree there. But can we start holding the refs accountable just as much as we hold the players? Because how many penalties were thrown at the Steelers' offense that entire game? There's not one quarter we have been through in that entire game where a bullshit call wasn't made towards this offense. We didn't even get started on the defense because that was just obliterating. I don't even understand how that referee even has a job. But it was chaotic. It was chaotic at the beginning. Not only because the bullshit calls, rookie center Zach Frazier obviously showing his little rookie roots, fumbling on the first ball of the snap. Obviously, Fields recovered it, took it for 4 yards, converted to a 2nd and 6, which led to Najee Harris, if I'm not mistaken, getting the big yardage, and it led to the Steelers tying the game 3-3, which basically was, in my opinion, the beginning to the end for the Falcons outside of the turnovers. Then we already spoke on the George Pickens, penalty, which was a bunch of bull. That was the most bullshit penalized game I have ever seen in my entire life. And I've been to a couple. I've been to games that are not even Steelers related. Never in my life. So honestly, I'ma just say this before I move on to the defense. You shouldn't just be apologizing to TJ Watt if you're the referees. You need to be apologizing to George Pickens. You need to be apologizing to Najee Harris. You need to be apologizing to that entire offensive line because you screwed or tried to screw everyone. Because those players on the other team were just not ready. Did not expect an offense that was, coordinated by a man who they fired and was so happy that they fired. Basically was throwing darts at them. Full speed. And was just throwing anything he wanted. And the players was doing what they wanted. They didn't expect them to get loose like that. We know they didn't. They ain't thinking Arthur Smith offense had it in him. But let me remind you, Falcon fans, he was hired as your head coach for a reason. Because of how great of an offensive coordinator he was on the Tennessee Titans. And if you don't believe me, ask A.J. Brown. Ask Derrick Henry. Ask them guys. They'll tell you. They'll tell you what offense exploited their roots. They'll tell you the offense that gave them the pop. They'll tell you the offense that allowed people to officially get put on to them. And now they're exploiting those talents that they were able to expose on other teams. Derrick Henry on the Ravens, A.J. Brown on the Eagles. You don't believe me? Ask them. Ask them. They know who play caller is what put everybody on to them. Now, obviously, things didn't work out in Tennessee as well as they thought. But when you have a coordinator who could have a guy who's considered a backup back then, at best a backup, as an MVP candidate, that should tell you the type of pop we're going to get with either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson headed into this season or the remainder of this season. On to the defense. TJ Watt doing what he does best. Let's just say he's reminding everyone of why, even though Myles Garrett got the award, why he's the AP Defensive Player of the Year, reigning, and why he should be this year, picking up exactly where he left off, strip sack, fumble, callback, offsides, call on the referees. Ref admitted after the game that it was his mistake after TJ was going off, Tomlin was going off, everyone was going off because they knew what was going to happen after that. They knew this offense was going to score after this. They knew that. And they didn't want that to go down. And they definitely didn't want it to be another TJ Watt headline. TJ Watt, big play. But guess what? This is TJ fucking Watt we're talking about here. It was going to happen, especially against a suspect offensive line. And you know what's funny? As bad as they tried to not have it be that way, that's practically what sealed the game when he had the sack, took a bow, and that was just the end of that. Steelers kicked the field goal, went up by 8, and let it be so. He finished that game with 4 tackles, 1 sack, 1 fumble recovery. Great game, TJ. Obviously, Mika made some big plays, made some big tackles, actually had some big stops on Bijan Robinson, had some big stops on Darnell Mooney. He basically he did what he did best. He neutralized the middle, neutralized the left side, allowing everybody to exploit to their best abilities, like Deshaun Elliott, who finished the game with interception, like Dante Jackson, who finished the game with interception. Deshaun Elliott's interception was returned for 49 yards. That's what led to the second field goal of that game, which Chris Boswell, if I'm not mistaken, tied his own record when he averaged 18 points, 6 field goals consecutively in a game as the Steelers. He did it once against the Chiefs in the 2016 divisional round playoffs where the Steelers beat the Chiefs. I think it was 16-10, something like that, and then turn around and lead the Steelers behind the defense, along with the defense, leads the Steelers to beating the Falcons 18-10. And it's funny that this defense, both of those games, allowed the team, only allowed up 10 points offensively. Touchdown was scored on a bunch of bullshit, and I think that's what led to the touchdown. They got saved right there. They did everything they could, to throw at the Steelers. And you can't expect this team to pop off when every big play that they had was getting ripped away from them because of bullshit penalties that would have not got called if that game was anywhere else. So it was like you could define week 1 as the Steelers versus the world, because that's exactly what it was. It was the Steelers versus the world. And when you're on the road, even though that was practically a home game because Steeler Nation took over. We're not going to pretend like that was not the case. It was just flooded with, Steeler fans on the outside. It was flooded with Steelers fans in the tailgates. It was flooded with Steeler fans in the bar. It was like I have never in my entire life seen a fan base outnumbered like I saw the Falcons in Atlanta. Like I saw, rise up in Atlanta. I have never, I feel bad. I kind of feel bad for Falcon players because was that your home opener or was that Pittsburgh's? That's the real question. They made that home opener, what was supposed to be a home opener for the Falcons, a home opener away from home for the Steelers. That's what Steeler Nation did. They just flooded that whole damn city, from the hotels to the airport. Oh my God, that airport was loaded. Then downtown, the bars, all of that. And let's just say the odds were just not in the Falcons' favor for there because the fans did play a good role in that. And it's like, Lord, you go into the stadium, you see more terrible towels than you saw white flags. And that speaks volumes, though, on how well Steeler Nation travels, how loyal they are to their team. And this is why many like TJ Watt, like Ben Roethlisberger, said that these are the best fans in the world, because there's no nation that travels in football like Steeler Nation. That's what I have right now. Recap of week 1. We're just going on a 30-second break, and I'll be right back to kick off the quarterback controversy and then head on to week 2, and then we're going to answer fans' questions. Welcome back to the BlitzHerz. I'm so used to doing the SHAE Max show, but BlitzHerz is actually in part of the SHAE Max show. So I messed up, but I didn't mess up. Now, moving on. We're gonna kick off this other part right here of the show with some questions that the fans had for me to answer. So obviously, week 2 is around the corner. We're going into Denver, Mile High Stadium, where Steelers don't have the best luck. Gonna get into more of that, but before we get there, it's time to start answering some questions for the fans. Obviously, you're a fan. You have question marks about the quarterbacks. You have question marks about the offensive line. Those are the 2 biggest question marks heading into the season. They're the 2 biggest question marks now, because we're still wondering who should start, for the whole year, who should be our future. But it's a good but a bad problem to have, because you should already have your starter officially. But when you're the Steelers and you got guys in the caliber of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, it would make it a hard decision, because this is your future. But is your future going to be the now, or is your now going to be now, and your future is going to have to wait for its time, which is the future to become the full starter? And I think week 2 in Denver will be the one to determine that. Because say if Justin Fields plays bad, then we're going to roll this competition into the home opener week 3 versus the Chargers. But I feel like if he plays good, whole nother ball game. But before we get into that, let's move on here. Let's kick it off with the fans. So I have my guy Mike Nicastro. He asked me a genuine question. Would Russell Wilson, would you start Justin Fields? Correct me, read this question again. Would you start Russell Wilson over Justin Fields if he was healthy? This actually leads to the topic that I really want to speak on, because this was going to be what I was going to end the show with. Obviously, the quarterback controversy. When you sit there and you deal with this, right? This is how I feel about the quarterback position. I say may the best man win. Like I said, this is a great problem to have. You got 2 quarterbacks that can help you win now, that can still help you win in the future. Now, obviously, Russell Wilson, people don't know, finished practically top 5 in everything. Almost everything. Top 10 at worst. So when you have a guy who finished 26 for 8, which was the best statistics you had since Big Ben in 2020, that says a lot about the upgrade that you now have on paper within Russell Wilson over what you had the past 2 seasons. But then you got Justin Fields, who can throw the ball just as good as Wilson, and who's mobile and young, and obviously you brought here to become your future, especially if, Russell Wilson doesn't work out. But to answer the question, would you start Russell Wilson over Justin Fields if he was healthy? I would say I would start him. If he was healthy this week 2 versus Denver, I would start Russell Wilson. And this is why I would start Russell Wilson. It ain't because I don't have faith in Justin Fields. I just want to see, and I need to see what Russell Wilson got. I need to see, does he still have it? Was the Broncos the problem? Can he be even close to the Russell Wilson that he was in Seattle? Because you can argue right now that he has everything in Pittsburgh that he had in Seattle. A coach that can make nothing, something out of nothing in Mike Tomlin, just like what Pete Carroll's known for. A coach who knows how to play, knows how to win games. A coach who is here, a coach with Super Bowl experience, 2 Super Bowl trips, 1 win. Then you have a run game like you had with Marshawn Lynch and them boys in Seattle. You got now with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. And then you got a great defense that you had with Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman, the Legion of Boom, with Bobby Wagner leading the way. And then now you got TJ Watt leading the way with Minka Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr., Cameron Hayward, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, who is starting to come into his shell. So you have everything in Pittsburgh that you once had in Seattle, or almost everything. You had Percy Harvin, you had Golden Tate, but guess what? You got Calvin Austin, you got George Pickens, you got Pat Freiermuth. You have enough weapons to work with. So I think if Russell Wilson would have started this week, especially against a suspect team like the Broncos, there would be no excuse to why he shouldn't win this game and why Russell Wilson would just basically be out excuses. And I think this is the good thing about both of these quarterbacks. They're both getting put in positions where they're out of excuses because you got everything in Pittsburgh that you did not have in Chicago and you did not have in Denver. So that's why I would start Russell Wilson, because I need him for sure to show me and show us who do believe in him that he can be our starter, and he should be. So if he was healthy, I would say yes, because of the experience, because of the veteranship, because of where he left off last season with a suspect and garbage team like the Broncos. Now you got an upgrade all around you, a better offensive line, even though they still got some work. Obviously, correct me, the better defense. You also have a better coach. And you're just in a better culture. You in a culture that understands and knows what they're trying to do. You in a team that commits to the run game, which I think you're going to need a lot, especially if you're, plan on playing in December and January and so on. This might be a long shot for February too. So when you have all of that, you should start your veteran guy. You should start a guy who has been there through all phases, which is not yet Justin Fields. So, yes, I would start Russell Wilson if he was healthy over Justin Fields. Yes, I would, because I need to see, and I think Stephen A said it best, but I need to see what he has. Are you that guy? Are you going to be that guy? Was the Broncos wrong for the decision they made? Would you make Denver regret releasing you and allowing you to land in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin? We need to start Russell Wilson, if he's healthy, to show us just that. So if he was healthy, yeah, I will start him just to see what he has, just to, have all those questions answered. Next question by, Mr. Professor Unlimited at Omar Tufo. He said, why do fans think Broderick Jones is better than DMJ, which is Dan Moore Jr.? I think what it is they believe Broderick Jones is more physical. I think that because you are a first-round draft pick, we traded up to get you. They had so many expectations about him. And Dan Moore at one point was a little inconsistent down the stretch a little bit, so he had to find his way. They think Broderick Jones, is finding his way, so they feel like he's easier to develop. He is more developed. I can kind of see why the fans will say he's better, but him and Dan Moore, it's a toss-up, honestly. I think either one of them will be good fits, but I think Broderick Jones should stick to the left side, Dan Moore should stick to the right side, and that should just be the end of that. But to answer that question, that is why, fans will sit there and say that Broderick Jones is better. It's because I think it's just based off the expectations, based off all the talk, based off the physicality, based off the youth of Broderick Jones. The fact that Broderick Jones is more versatile because he can play both sides. Dan Moore can only play one. And I think the right side is the best side for Dan Moore. I think that's just what it is. And then you have Broderick Jones who can do both, and which is why they have him switching multiple positions, playing both. But I think they just need to figure out which decision they're going to do for Broderick Jones and leave it at just that. So none of this won't carry on into the season. All right, moving on. So QB controversy in Pittsburgh. Who should start week 2 versus the Broncos? I think I already answered this question when my guy Mike DeCastro asked me, would I start Russell Wilson over Justin Fields if he was healthy? I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. I just feel like if Russell Wilson was healthy, he should start. Not only because you're the veteran, but it's also because you have to show people that he has more to prove as of right now than Justin Fields, if that makes sense. And let me tell you why he has more to prove. It's because a lot of people pointed at him, blamed him for the downfall of the Seahawks. They blamed him for Denver. But if he comes over here in Pittsburgh and redeems himself and show that he's still that guy that a lot of people who believe in him, still believe that he is, and the guy that those who switch sides once did think he was, then I think that, a lot would change. The energy would definitely change. So when you are someone like that, and you are someone like Russell Wilson, you have to find a way to get healthy and start. So if both quarterbacks are healthy, then I say Russell Wilson because he has a lot more to prove in Denver versus Justin Fields. We obviously traded Justin Fields here to become our future because I think we all can agree with management when we say he did not get the fair shot in the great opportunity in Chicago. Chicago's a complete mess. They don't know what they're doing. Darnell Mooney to the Falcons with Drake London. I mean, come on now. And you got Keenan Allen, but who is Keenan Allen with? These are the, crazy things. Obviously, I hope Caleb Williams trade, acquiring works out well for them. But if they don't, that's only going to make Fields look better. Fields is in a better system. Fields in a better culture. Fields has a better coach. So, if Fields is now put in a position where he could learn behind the veteran Russell Wilson. But then you have Russell Wilson, who is 36, who basically is do or die for him. Because if Fields plays well this week, say if he plays like he did week 1 or plays better, then I'm afraid this is the beginning to the end for Russell Wilson. And it really hurts me to say all of that because I believe in Russ. But when you have a guy who goes on the road, say he plays well, say he wins in Denver, where Mike Tomlin's teams are not the best at, I don't think Tomlin has ever won a game in Denver, not versus Denver, but in Denver. So if you are someone like Justin Fields and you turn around and you lead your team to doing that and you end up playing better in week 2 than you did in week 1 in Atlanta, it's going to be hard to go back. So I just think that if both quarterbacks are healthy, let's give Russ the fair shot and let him start. Now, before I close out the show, preview of week 2 matchup versus the Broncos. Mike Tomlin, like I said, don't have the best matchup or the best record, and his teams don't really perform the best in Denver. There's always that 1 or 2 little mistakes that causes them. And so this game could be, I'm going to flip a coin on this one. Everyone's confident because we're going against a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. But Mike Tomlin does have one of the best records in the league. If I'm not mistaken, he is 20-6 versus rookie quarterbacks, or 30-6, something like that. He don't have more than 6 losses versus a rookie quarterback. But the last time we played a rookie quarterback, we got blown out. And I understand he ain't as good as C.J. Stroud, and they're not as good as a team as the Texans, especially the Texans now, the Denver Broncos, but we got to be a little careful here because this is also a Mike Tomlin team that has never won in Denver. So this game could go either way because of that alone. Because the Broncos can definitely upset you. The Broncos are not a team you should take lightly. And I just think that, when you're still trying to find yourself, you're still trying to build, and then you got a defensive team like the Broncos who is expecting everything. It's hard. It's hard. I really don't have no predictions about this game. I'm going to just play a classic game called Shut Up. Because, like I said, Tomlin, one of the best versus rookie quarterbacks. Not one of the best in Denver, though. But the Broncos, suspect team, suspect offensive line, no good offense at all. Rookie quarterback, suspect receiver in Cortland Sutton. And you got the game record, TJ Watt you're playing against, Cameron Hayward you're playing against, Alex Highsmith you're playing against, Cole Holcomb you're playing against, Minka Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, Deshaun Elliott. You got one of the leagues, if not the leagues right now, best defense you're matching up against. So when you have all of that and you are the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're playing against this, that can be tough. That's very, very, very tough. So it's just hard to even go there. Sorry, that was my phone about to slip. I couldn't do that. That's an iPhone Pro 15, Pro Max. But anyway, when you are the Steelers, this is one of those, I could say, a trap game, if that makes sense. And I understand, the Steelers are not this good as a team as people think. Or it's not that good for anybody to be a trap game. But at the same time, they are a better team than the Broncos. On paper, at least, they're the better team. And they do have a better coach in the likes of Mike Tomlin over Sean Payton, and it shows. Sean Payton has not had a successful season since Drew Brees. Russell Wilson got blamed for that. Bo Nix is now a rookie. Suspect offensive line versus the defensive line of the Steelers. Then you have the secondary. So he's bound to make a couple of mistakes. So I think the question is, will this offense be ready to capitalize on those mistakes? Because you're going to have to put that ball in the air. I don't think they're going to sit there and allow, Najee to just run rush yard and Jaylen Warren. They know to expect that. So you got to get them off guard if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have to get the Broncos off guard. You got to throw some darts at them, some things at them that they didn't see on film last week or the previous years. And you have to be ready for them to be prepared for anything. And you got to win at the line. Both sides of the ball has to win at the line. So I think that right there is the preview of week 2. Obviously, I don't have no game prediction. I will have mine Sunday like everyone else. But once again, this is your host SHAE signing out. And this has been BlitzHerz. See y'all Sunday.
Black and yellow. Yeah.
Goes to the back of the end zone, and it is fires, intercepted, picked off at a pick 6. Minka Fitzpatrick is an absolute ball. Steelers show blitz. Here they come. He gets it away and it's picked off at the goal.
Picked off Polamalu.